Parents, you just got your teen's SAT score back today. Maybe you were happy with it, maybe you weren't. If you weren't happy with it, you're probably wondering, what do I do now? For those of you guys who don't know me yet, my name is Jared Wynn. I'm the founder and director of Geometry Guru's SAT Prep. And at this point in my career, I've helped hundreds of students increase their SAT scores so they can go to their dream colleges or qualify for scholarships. With that being said, let's get straight into it. The first thing that you need to do is that if you're not happy with your teen's SAT score, you both need to take radical accountability on that score. Half of it is their fault. Half of it is your fault. Because reality is this: if your teen did not get the SAT score that they were hoping for, that's because they didn't do the proper inputs to get the score that they needed for their colleges. Now, that's not a bad thing. If you take radical accountability of your teen's score, you're gonna be able to actually fix that score. Because imagine this, if it was completely out of their control or completely out of your family's control, then it's impossible to raise your score. But if you actually are like, hey, we got this score for a reason because of our actions, then you all of a sudden have the power to change it. So that's the first thing you always need to do. The second thing you need to do is you need a step-by-step plan on actually increasing your teen's weaknesses. Because here's the thing, family, there are 64 concepts on every single SAT. It's a standardized test. They can't go past those original 64 concepts that they originally put on that test. So what you need to do is you need to identify which of the 14 to 15 topics they actually need to work on. Because very rarely, especially if you have like a 3.8 and above GPA student, most of the time they don't need to work on all 64 SAT concepts. What they actually need to do is just focus on those specific concepts that they actually need to work on, especially if they're at like that 12 to 1300 range. They don't need to work on all of them. The first thing you need to do is that you need to do what we call here the efficiency index. Now, a lot of students, again, they just go to a bunch of resources like Khan Academy, Kaplan test prep books, Princeton Review test prep books, and they just try to do everything. But your teen does not have the liberty of doing 3 to 4 hours a day. They have sports, they have APs, they have extracurriculars. They don't have time to do 5 hours SAT prep. It's not realistic. So you need to do a comprehensive diagnostic process on them so that you can understand exactly which of the 64 SAT concepts do they actually need the most help on. Only then can you actually give them a targeted plan based on those specific weaknesses. There's only 3 reasons why your teen would ever get something wrong on the exam. Number 1, they just don't understand it. They never learned it, or maybe they forgot it from 8th or 9th grade. That's very obvious at this point. Second reason is they know how to do it, but they don't know how to do it in the time constraint of the exam. That's a strategy issue. The third reason is fatigue, stress. Let's say, for example, they spent so much time in the beginning portion of the module. By the time they got to that end part of the module, they were so fried because they spent so much time in the beginning that even if they understand how to do the problem, they weren't actually able to do the problem, even if they understand it. So once you understand exactly why you're actually making those mistakes, then you can do what we call here the pressure protocol. Now, the pressure protocol is very, very simple. A lot of your students, they struggle with structure. They struggle with actually knowing what it is to do every single day in the context of the rest of their lives, right? Because again, they have sports, they have all these other things, so they don't know how to actually fit it in. Now, with the pressure protocol, it makes it really easy for your team to actually just sit down, do the work that they need to do, and then just move on, okay? Now, once we understand exactly which of the 64 concepts that your teen actually needs the most help on, now you need to give your teen real SAT problems that mimic the same types of problems that they're missing right now, except you got to make sure that they're slightly harder than the real SAT, and you got to make sure that they're timed as well. Because a lot of your students understand the concepts without the timing. But once they put you in that timing or with that pressure, they just kind of freeze. They don't know what to do. Now, with the pressure protocol, you're going to be able to, not just learn the concepts, learn the strategy and learn the techniques. You're going to be able to do these problems in a test-like environment that is slightly harder than the real thing. So that when they see the real thing, they're just like, yeah, I've done this a million times. It feels like nothing to me, right? For example, a lot of your students are in sports. A lot of your students are in theater, music, whatever. So before that big game, before that big performance, wouldn't you want them to simulate the real thing before they actually do it? Of course you would. And a lot of people, they don't actually do that. That leads me straight into step number 3, is what we call here the test simulation. Now, a lot of students, what they do is either A, they don't work with enough practice exams, they just don't do enough, or B, they use a bunch of random practice exams from Khan Academy or Princeton Review, And they're way too easy in comparison to the real thing. Sometimes even 100 to 150 points too easy in comparison to the real thing. Would you be able to perform preparing like that? No, of course you wouldn't. And that's how so many people treat the SAT. So then they go into the real thing and they're just like, wow, this is so much harder than anything they've ever done before. So what you actually need to do is you need to use real practice exams that are slightly harder than the real thing, similar to the pressure protocol. So by the time they take the actual exam, they're just like, yeah, clock in, clock out. It feels like any other Saturday for me. That's the reality. Most of you guys don't have a conceptual issue. Most of you guys have a pressure issue. And once you see that actual pressure, you're not prepared. You don't know how to deal with it. Now, those things though are only effective with this most powerful weapon: consistency and guidance. If your team is not consistently doing step 1, consistently doing step 2, consistently doing step 3, I don't care how much practice they do or how much like quote unquote months or time they put into it, they're never gonna see any real results. They can't just go through this one time. They need to go through this multiple times. Okay, which means that they need to devote, on average, 7 to 10 hours a week to get to their desired score. That's not a lot of time, family. 7 to 10 hours a week is nothing, really. That's an hour, maybe an hour and a half of their day. And if you're just like, Jared, my team doesn't have an hour to 2 hours a day to practice for SAT, well then how are you ever gonna get them to the schools that you want them to go to? That doesn't make any sense. This is gonna be the easiest time they ever have. There's no consequences right now to making mistakes. But when they go to college, when they have exams, when they have to network, those two mentalities do not match up. So if you do not have an hour to an hour and a half of your day to actually devote to SAT prep, then you never deserve that 1500 or that 1450, whatever score that you're looking for in the first place. So what you guys actually need to do as well is you need to have someone in their corner. Someone to be like, hey, you're doing these things wrong. This is why you're doing them wrong. This is how you need to actually fix them, right? Only then will you actually have enough guidance or enough consistency to get to the results that you're looking for. Look at every successful person in the world, every CEO, every doctor, every engineer. Most likely, those people had mentors. And if they did not have a mentor or if they didn't have mentors, then they would not be even close to what they actually are at this point. So you need to put the ego aside. You need to recognize that, hey, maybe I'm here for a reason. Maybe I need to get help. So if you don't actually put the ego aside and actually get the help that you're looking for, then you might just stay in the exact same spot that you were before. All right, family, that's it for today's video. 3 simple steps to get you from point A to point B. If you guys need help applying this to your team's unique situation, go ahead and send me an email. Go ahead and send me a DM. No obligations. I just want to make sure I point you in the right direction. Until then, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.